Right now, I wanted to ask Chris Jericho.
Okay.
Y2J. I wanted to ask him about some wrestling terms, and maybe you can walk me through.
Sure. I'll
what
do
they
my
might
best.
actually
I know a
mean.
lot of that sort of stuff.
What is a work? Because to me, all this is work. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. If you're getting paid, it's work.
That's
right?
what I think.
So a work versus a shoot, and I came in the business in 1990. And if I ever explained that on national universal galaxinial TV,
You'd be done.
I'd be out. I'd never be able to work. But now I'm kind of, a grandfathered in. I can say what I want. Well, actually, everyone says what they want, right? There's still guys back from the early 90s that won't say a word. Arn Anderson's not going to tell you the difference between a work and a shoot. But Chris Jericho will walk you through it. So a work is when you're working with each other. Okay, so we're if I'm going to put you in a headlock, we're moving together. We're mutually working with each other to create the best match possible. Okay, a shoot would be if we don't want to work together. I'm going to get a little rough with you. You're going to get a little rough with me, and you can start to get in a little bit of a scuffle. You're not cooperating. Back in the day, you might get in a fight in the ring. You probably won't do that now, but it's not going to turn out well because now you're shooting with each other, which means it's not going the way you want it to go, working with each other.
Well, now I do see why the transition into film would be tough, because they're like, "Hey, Chris, I know you just got done with your wrestling match, but guess what? Congratulations, you booked something. On Monday, you're going to be in a shoot, and it's going to be work."
Yeah,
and
I show up ready to go.
And then you're beating up the actor, and they're like, "Chris, no," and you're like,
Yeah.
"Is this not a shoot?" They're like, "It is a shoot." You keep doing it, and then
Suddenly
you're like,
you're
"Do
off
it
the
to be
project.
work?"
But the funny thing is, though, it's the very first action sequence I did was way back in a movie called Android Apocalypse, which was a Sci-Fi Channel movie.
Okay.
Starring Joseph, not Joey, Lawrence. And the fight scene in wrestling, obviously, you get as close as you can with a punch. You're or even sometimes just touching. There's like, whoa. What are you doing, man? I'm like, we're fighting. He's like, no, you came too close to me. I'm like, I'm not going to touch you. Didn't want to have it because obviously stunt shooting, you're hitting like here, but the angle from behind looks like you're coming across. So you had to learn that. In like wrestling, you want to come as close as you can. In filming, you want to stay as far away and catch the angles.
Yeah.
So you learn that. So you're kind of shooting. You're working, but they think you're shooting, even though it's on a shoot. So it gets kind of like down a rabbit hole there with the terms.
Yeah. I could see how that could be a little confusing. And then this one you tried to explain to me, but people are still calling me in the comments.
Okay.
They call me Mark, but
Right.
I'm John.
John. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And they keep saying that, and then every time they're saying all these things, and they're saying all these insider scoops, and I'm like, I don't care. Wrestling is real to me. I believe every storyline with 100% certainty.
Sure. Well, I mean, a lot of it could be from the disciples, the books of the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Oh, does it go? It goes. So this goes back all the way to those guys.
To biblical times. Apparently, Jesus actually had a couple matches. You know that you've heard that Abraham Lincoln had some pro wrestling matches. The word on the street could be Jesus could have had some too.
Well, he had the barbed wire. I mean, he was like a hardcore wrestler before it was a thing.
The Shroud of Turin.
Yes.
Where do you think the blood came from?
Oh my God.
See?
This is why we got Chris, man.
Revolutionary thing.
This is why we got.
Yeah. So if your name is John,
Yes.
back in those days, you could also be referred to as Matthew, Luke, or Mark.
Mark. Oh,
That's where it all came from.
that solves that.
Yeah. So that solves that one.
And how about this one? Because, like, you look at Joe Hodis and you're like, that is whatever the opposite of a baby face is. Like, that's like a face that has seen a lot of darkness. And you,
Yes.
even after all your years, you have like a baby face.
Well, thank you.
But when I say Chris Jericho is known for having a baby face, the commenters are like, no, he's not. Look at
Right.
his heel or something like that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm
Right.
going to the podiatrist. Like, so what does that mean to you, Chris?
Well, have you heard the song Babyface? You've got the cutest little baby face.
Babyface, yeah.
That was actually recorded by Vince McMahon Sr. in 1942.
Now that makes sense.
And that's why that kind of all transcended the generations.
yes, I
into
feel like
Babyface.
I have a little bit of a Vince McMahon voice now.
A little bit. Yeah. Here's a little bit of trivia for you.
Okay.
since we're talking about baby
Sure.
faces. You know what they call a baby face in England?
They call it
Baby face.
a baby lift or something like that. A baby trousers. You
No,
know?
blue eye.
Blue eye.
A blue eye.
Really?
I guess because if you have blue eyes, you're a nicer person, apparently. So
Sounds
that's what
about
that would be the nomenclature for a baby face in England, especially like in the earlier days, 70s, 80s, 90s. They would say blue eye.
Yeah.
So you were learning stuff here.
Yeah, you know, and what I was gonna say as like now that I'm like a big like kissed into the wrestling industry and I'm just
Right.
one of you. It's just, I
Yeah.
was gonna say like what it reminds me. It reminds me of like this guy like had a gimmick and was just trying to get a pop while keeping candle fame and they were trying to work.
Right.
But it ended up being a shoot and all the marks were getting color and on their baby face and it was heating up. And then there's always like, oh, my heel,
Right.
And then the whole thing just kind of became a,
Asabida.
oh, yes.
So you
That's
got-
what I, you just the words right out of
Just
my mouth,
you just
Chris.
literally nailed it. Anybody that's looking, create a clip of that, and you could just put pro wrestling inner vernacular glossary.
Yes.
Worst
By-
freestyle rap ever.
Yeah, exactly.